Hi, everybody. Welcome to this live cast, Designing Circular Cities. Great to have you all here. Great to have you all at home. My name is Thomas van der Zand. I'm a programmer here at Pakhuis de Zwijger on sustainability. And at Pakhuis de Zwijger, we are involved in several international projects on design, on makership, on circularity. And the great thing is that a lot of these international projects come here together tonight. A lot of people, a lot of designers, a lot of Fab City makers, researchers, the cities that are involved. They are here in Amsterdam today. And that's why we thought it would be a good idea to have this conversation here tonight. Let's start with Veronique Achoui. She is from RESCALED, and she's going to tell us what that is.
I work for Restorative Justice Netherlands, and I'm part of the movement RESCALED. We challenge the concept of prison, and instead propose the concept of small-scale detention houses. I think it's important to realize that when we create circular cities, it is not only about economy, it is also about justice. Circular cities are about human interaction, communication and interrelatedness. With small-scale detention houses, we want to move beyond the paradigm of individualism. You cannot raise a person outside of society to become a perfect person and then expect them to be that same exact person upon re-entering society. Prisons disconnect people from their socio-economic context. Prisons disconnect misbehavior from its historical origins that is often rooted in design flaws of society. Think about the inequality of opportunities. So what you see is that regaining a place in society becomes increasingly difficult when existing ties are broken while in prison. RESCALED assumes that people are defined by their immediate social structures and their socio-economic background. That is why detention houses are small-scale, differentiated and embedded in communities. In such a structure, people in detention houses continue to remain connected to society. It is my aim that we redesign our criminal justice system into a circular justice system, in which individuals are no longer punished for design flaws in our society, but instead responsibility is shared by all who see a leaf turning yellow.
Great, thank you very much. Come and join us. And I'm going to present our next speaker, Peter Wouda, who calls himself bouwmeester at Stichting Tijd.
In the late 1960s, an interesting experiment started in the town of Heerenveen. An urban space of 1 kilometer long, where only grass was growing, was turned into a chaotic environment. Tons of used bricks, tiles and old walls were placed on top of the lawn. After this, people started organizing this chaos by stacking the stones into building blocks, and a diversity of trees and shrubs was planted. After that, it was nature's turn to react on a new situation. Year after year, until this very day, local residents and nature work together. The result, after more than 50 years, you can see it here, is that the area turned from a monoculture to a complex ecological site. The idea came from Louis Leroy, born in Amsterdam, who later called these places eco-cathedrals. All over the Netherlands and across Europe, similar initiatives started. He was interested in very long-term thinking, which is now also known as cathedral thinking. He demanded that all cities should leave 1% without any planning. There, space is given time and time is given space in order to make cities circular and sustainable. He signed a 100-year letter of intent with the local government to achieve this.
Thank you very much. Please join us. And then we have one Zoom speaker, or one Zoom designer, Pedro Saez Martinez, co-founder of Diseño Ambeta. Please, the floor is yours.
Okay, hello everyone. As Thomas says, I'm co-founder of Design in Beta, a circular and social design studio with my mate Alex and also Mark. And we identified two challenges regarding our cities. One is food waste, the huge amount of food and organic waste that we produce. And the other one is the disconnection from nature that we suffer here. So we envisioned a modular solution which would adapt to every home, even small homes, and to everyone's needs. But we are aware that we need to switch from individual product design to systems thinking. That's we need to engage community to make cities really circular. And that's why we thought not only of a product, but also of a platform where people could download the files, use them, change them, exchange information and experiences. And we also designed an educational program around the product. So community is powerful, and sharing knowledge can boost an innovation project. So right now we are searching for partners to boost this project, Compound. And we would like to have composting experts, local network of local manufacturers and web developers and so on. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And this cry out is noted. Thank you very much. Please join us at the digital table. And Veronique, I want to start with you because you define circularity in a different way from a lot of other people. A lot of other people think about circularity as a circularity of materials, but you think about a circularity of people, if I can call it that. You call it circular justice. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, maybe it's easiest to start with like Rousseau, who wrote this book about how a person could be educated outside of in nature, because this is pure, and then that person could become a perfect person and a good person. But then to me, I always felt that was really weird, because I'm a very different person when I see my mother or when I'm with friends. And there's other philosopher, Levinas, Emmanuel Levinas, and he said, like, my identity is defined by when I meet another person. And I've always kept that in my mind. So what we do, for me, in the criminal justice system is something happens, a situation happens, and we say, okay, this is the date that something happens, you will be punished for it, and you go to prison, and then we'll see what happens. Well, we don't care what happens. Of course, you have this reintegration programs, but that's to me, in my opinion, like Munchausen by proxy syndrome, because we create this really unhealthy environment, which are called prisons, and then we create a cure for it. So for me, I think when it's about circular justice, the story begins much earlier, with inequality of opportunities, with our society that is not equal in so many ways. And that's also what you see of the population in prisons. Usually they are from different groups, so never the national group. Like in Netherlands, it's the Dutch population is not the biggest group but in Italy, in every country, it's the minority group, or the groups that have a different background. I don't like the word minority group, but people that have a different background, they are usually in prison. People that
they are overrepresented,
or lower educated people are overrepresented in prisons. 10% in the Netherlands is in prison because they have debt, and so they didn't commit any other crimes. They didn't murdered anyone, they didn't hit anyone, they just had debt. So I think we need to go back to where did it actually start.
Yeah, so circularity is also about how we deal with people in our society.
How we relate to each other. So deal is not, I was searching for the right word in my mind, but it didn't come, but how we relate to people in our society. And also, in the detention houses that you are working on, the people that are there, they're also part of the community, and they also contribute to the community, right? Definitely. And I think it's very interesting what Chris said, because it's the last thing I would want is that we replace all prisons by small-scale detention houses, because then you're actually creating, again, a new infrastructure, which isn't the right answer. We also need to make better use of the houses we already have. And actually in Amsterdam alone, there are already 200 small-scale houses that people go to after detention or during the last part of detention. So I think we should make first better use of the things we already have in society. And then, of course, there will always be a small group that still needs some kind of liberty deprivation. And then for that group, of course, you can do it differently. And then you also relate to the neighborhood and what Kate said before as well. Like it's local.
Yeah. Is there also a relationship between the circular justice and maybe the material circularity or the sustainable world? How the sustainable world sees circularity?
I think personally, I just learn a lot from the design and the way of thinking in the world of products and circular economy. But there's no. I mean, for me, I thought of the word circular justice, but it's not a concept that is out there yet. I do hope that it will become more common knowledge. I see there's Pedro wants to say something.
Oh, Pedro, yes, please. I didn't see you there, but you want to comment on this?
Yeah, have you, Veronique? Have you finished?
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay. No, I just wanted to say this relationship between people and material circularity might be in the way that we decide, our system decides what materials are waste, and in the same way it decides which people are waste or have no value in the same way for our society, so they must be.
So we lose the value of these people by saying, okay, you're in prison and now it doesn't matter anymore what we do after, right? That's something.
So actually a regenerative culture should regenerate not only the materials and the nature, but also people relationships. Yeah, that's in the way.
Yeah, so we'll let's stay with you. So you're based in Valencia. I don't know if I mentioned that before. Valencia will be the World Design Capital in 2022. But you say that you're missing like a strategy. So towards, for example, design as a main agent for social change and urban innovation. What is it that you're missing exactly? Is it this kind of approach that we were talking about before?
Perhaps, but I also meant actually there are some social design or even circular design programs, but to me they are not enough, and they are some way more superfluous. They should be more, I think, in that way.
Yeah, so all three of you are really trying to design a different system. So what do you think, Pedro, that are aspects of design that could really help a system's change?
So design, in the end, is about thinking how things should be, not only products or graphics, but even business models or even, let's say, the public policies. So if we have been for years, for centuries, doing the same things, and we've got in design, we can find some methodologies, creative methodologies to innovate and to do things differently, because actually we need to do things in a different way. So creativity, maybe.
Yeah, and how are you moving from doing like product design to more systems design?
So that's a difficult question, actually. I think, this thing of switching from individual action to collective, to community action, to listening and co-creating with different actors, with different stakeholders. I think that's key to redesign or design not just products or concrete items, but let's say systems.
Yeah.
At least at scale. Yeah.
Yeah. So Peter, I want to come to you. That's also what you have a lot of experience with in talking with a lot of stakeholders in retaining these eco cathedrals or Leroy Gardens. We were talking about temporary solutions earlier, but you are doing like a 100-year lease contract with
for a start, yes.
Yeah, for a start. Yes. We just start with 100 years and then we'll look what happens.
Well, nature is always evolving. There is no end to the evolution. So why should we stop and think in products? We should think in processes. And that's what eco cathedrals are all about. It's a process, a continuous process.
So what I find interesting, so this was probably distributed design avant la lettre, because it is already from decades ago that this started.
Yes, it's more than 50 years ago that Leroy started this. And then you could see that all over the Netherlands and also in France and Germany, projects were started, but always politics said about 5-10 years. Well, it was a nice project, but we move on to a next. And there are just a few projects left that are still working, and it's very sad, I guess. And I think Amsterdam is ready for an eco-cathedral process.
Yeah, so there are now a lot of municipalities that are actually interested in doing this again, right?
Yes, we many municipalities they visit us and they come and see how we do it. It's also open source building. We don't have a trademark on it. Everybody who can who wants to use it, they can use it in their own environment. And so I guess it's for a city it's good to have places like this, where well, as I said, space gets time and time gets space.
Yeah, places that are left alone as well, and there is not so much of a plan for it.
Yeah, kind of wastelands, and well, there is no plan in nature, and there should be continuous evolution. There is no drawing of, there's no landscape architect who says it has to be like this, the result, but so it's an ongoing process.
Yeah, so space gets time and time gets space. This is a great luxury, actually. How do you look at the things of we talked about that are being developed in T-Factor? Do you see any parallels with what you're doing?
Yeah, sure. I read about T-Factor. We spoke before this. Their ideas, what I learned from it is start with a temporary project and see how this can evolve in a longer term process. Well, I think it's nice to talk further after this and see how we can cooperate.
Yeah, oh, that's great. Do you see any cooperation possibilities?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think with T-Factor, the let's say ideology is to start with temporariness and to find also your fit, to find your combinations, your communities, and your practices, and then to develop them into more regular, stable, permanent uses. But to do so also really from this position of show, don't tell. So beginning with small things. I really like also this kind of phrase saying that the next big thing is 1,000 little things. So also to really try to seed different types of practices and see what attracts people and what really kind of has a certain internal logic to it that can stand the test of time. And I think opening up these kinds of spaces I mean, you could say it's the reverse. It's bringing deep time into the present, and it's not being temporary, but actually it's like a really thin, layered, like a spekkoek, we would say in Dutch, of temporariness, right? Of people stacking up the stones, of all the plants and ecosystems coming in and wrapping themselves together. So maybe for me, I could say it's like a model for T-factor practices, so expressed in bricks and plants.
Yeah, so I don't know how you translate spekkoek into English.
Yeah, layer cake.
A kind of a layered cake with all different colors. Yeah. So I find it very interesting that you're all talking about growing communities, and that is so important for reaching your goals. I would just like to know from all of you, actually, what kind of stakeholders or what kind of people are you not yet talking to within your communities that you would really like to talk to? Maybe, do you have anybody in mind that you would like to have the next conversation with that maybe is watching?
Good question. I don't think one specific group has the answer. So I really do believe in working on it together, because otherwise you create another specific system with a. So
So
I have to pass, I think.
What are the next steps for you that you want to take?
Well, I think one of the things we're working on now is to create a Airbnb website, but then focusing on these small-scale detention houses forms that already exist.
So how does that work? It's
so at the moment, so when somebody gets 3 months prison, there's the option of a prison, and they have forensic care or the care system. So, but we need to have these 1,000 examples of the way you can differentiate between what people need. So actually have a website just like Airbnb with thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of houses all over Europe, where we can send people like, you are now in prison, but you actually are addicted. So a better place for you to stay is here.
So the places that should fit their skills and also their problems.
Yes, but also it should also be community integrated. So the people, they need to add value for themselves to the community. So actually, just like you and us in our neighborhoods, like, do we create value for our neighborhoods? Like, some do, some don't, but just,
So yeah, an Airbnb for detention houses. It sounds very cozy. But it's a great next step. I'm really looking forward to that as well. Peter, I was asking, who would you like to talk to bring your project a step further?
We have the luxury that we don't have to invite people, because
people
come to us. What are you doing there? And but our goal is that we don't want to be a unique location. Now there are just a few eco-cathedrals, but we don't want to be unique. We want all over the Netherlands and maybe in other countries that places like this come. So
are we going international as well?
Yes, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
No, well, in Germany and France, Leroy had projects, but they, as I said, they stopped too soon. So maybe it's time to start again.
Okay, great. And maybe to you. So who would you like to talk to?
Yeah. So speaking on behalf of T-Factor is hard in that sense that sort of all these pilots have their very own points in time in their master plans, and some really need citizens because it's still kind of an empty industrial area, and others have lots of citizens but they lack investment or something. For Amsterdam Science Park, we're really looking to, I mean, speaking is maybe a big word, but really to talk with the more than human inhabitants of the park, and to really try to understand sort of what the two foxes that live around the neighborhood and the bats and the birds, what they would need from the science park to keep it as a flourishing area that people also love to be in. So that's kind of our next stakeholder engagement challenge, to speak with the non-humans.
To speak with the non-humans. And how are you trying to go and do that?
Yeah, so we're trying to build up a methodology around that called the arts of noticing. So it kind of really starts with paying like really granular attention to your surroundings, doing a lot of walks with people, trying to sort of see and listen what's going on with other inhabitants of the park. En doing that with kids, with scientists, with artists, with people who by their nature look in really different ways at the park, and try to build up the starting points for dialogue there.
And really getting nature place at the table. Great. Yeah. And Pedro, to you as a final say for this round, who would you still really like to talk to, or what is your next step?
So right now, as I said, we are searching for partners. So we will need to speak to people who are experts in composting or even recycling, and then local manufacturers, or even we thought of precious plastic as well. And maybe for the educational program, we'll have to talk to the public sector so that we can develop this program in schools and high schools.
Yeah, so you also have to be linked with Jiao, I think, right? So we need to do that as well. So very best of luck with that. Best of luck to all of you, and thank you for being here.